Ready.
Hello, ladles and jelly spoons, and welcome to Silhouette number 21. I believe, possibly, if not definitely, if not really, absolutely definitely, the most important one we've done this far. We have the amazing award-winning director of the Red Pill documentary, Cassie Jaye. Round of applause, everybody.
Woo!
Hello, Cassie.
Hello.
Are you? You're not on camera. Are you able to present on camera?
We're not on camera.
Not on camera.
You saw us earlier, right?
Yeah.
Oh. I mean,
it doesn't make any difference. Oh, there you go.
Here we go.
Yeah, that's it. I can see you now.
Hello.
With Cassie is Evan, who is her boyfriend.
There you go.
So sorry, guys. I know almost all of you were here just so that you could marry Cassie, but I'm afraid.
That's okay. It'll exist in my fan fiction.
There you go.
So we also have Samaj, who did the artwork for me and Otter, and also drew a lovely drawing of Cassie. And I will post it on Twitter, or Cassie will, I suppose, for everyone to see after the show. And we also have Mai. Hello, Mai.
Hello.
We have Otter, of course. Hello, Otter.
You alright?
And we have Richard Elliott, who set up the showings in both London and Birmingham. So if you're going to either of those in January, please give him a big thank you.
Thank you.
That includes us. Huh? So thanks.
Yeah, it was my going. So woo.
And you're not related to the Gregory Allen Elliott, are you?
That's what I thought.
Is this mic working?
Hello?
Oh, we can't hear you, Richard. Oh, there we go.
I can hear you, but I can't see anybody.
You can't see anything.
No?
This is going. This started really well.
There.
Well, Mercury goes retrograde today, so it'll all go sideways now.
There you go. There you go. So, yeah.
Well, yes, we better dive right in because Cassie doesn't have very long. So let's start by saying you were attacked an awful lot, weren't you, Cassie, by feminists for doing this, even though, you know, they talk constantly about how they want to empower women. You said that you actually felt more empowered having done this than you did as a feminist.
Yes, that's very true. Yeah, I don't know how to even summarize it, but after making the red pill, I realized all the ways that I do have power and privilege as a woman. I obviously don't want to use that to step over or on top of people in the process. And I think, you know, some women learning their power could and do that. Oh, did our video just went out?
Fix it right now.
Still keep going while you.
Yes. Well, exactly, Evan. You would be most unlucky if Cassie had essentially gone down the rabbit hole, learned all the ways that she's privileged, and then come back for you.
And it really, the fear only serves to perpetuate a system of control. And as soon as you escape from that fear, then you're kind of getting away from that system of control, aren't you? So.
But look at her. She couldn't do anyone any damage, could she?
That's patriarchy. It's how dare you? She could be vicious. God damn it.
Yeah, exactly. She's like, well, she has been killed 8 times and is still walking. So I wouldn't underestimate.
There you
go. So Cassie, I wanted to ask you. You've interviewed a lot of people. We haven't seen the film yet, so forgive my ignorance. But I don't believe Christina Hoff Sommers is in it.
No, I never interviewed her. I haven't met her yet.
I would have thought that she would be, you know, like an immediate sort of person to go to. So like, what stopped you, or did you reach out to her and never got a reply, or what?
I believe I did reach out to her. I don't want to put her on the spot. I don't know how I didn't get responded back to, but ultimately, the reason why I didn't include people like Christina Summers or Camille Paglia in the film is because they're an interesting group because they still classify themselves as feminists, but they care about men's issues. The film really just looks at the polar opposite spectrums, the men's rights activists who, wear that title proudly, and the feminists that are, in Ms. Magazine, Michael Kimmel, and Big Red. So I didn't have the time in a 2 hour film.
What was Big Red like?
What's that?
What was Big Red like to meet?
Oh. Well, we interviewed her for, I guess, an hour and a half, and a lot of good laughs. I hope to put a lot of the raw footage available somewhere for people to see, because I think it's, a good timestamp on our history to see the full-on, Aaron Pizzey interview or Warren Farrell interview or Big Red interview. So, soon, hopefully, people will be able to see the unedited, uncensored version of those interviews.
Well,
I have seen the movie, and I will say that I'm sure Big Red is a lovely woman, but when it comes to the various different issues, she's so passionate. She almost resembles a cartoon character. She gets that passionate. So.
Well, you'll see when you see the film Mr. Silhouette and Otter, that the film does more so focus on the differences between the platforms and the ideologies of the feminist movement and men's rights perspective, rather than, kind of the mudslinging and online comments and, all that, what I think is more, surface level tactics of movements rather than the root of the platforms and the ideologies. So the film looks more at the ideologies.
Yeah, no, I know that you reached out to Gloria Steinem and she declined under the guise that she doesn't know enough about men's rights activists, which has never stopped her before, So it's kind of interesting when you get that, these people who talk about they're the underdog, they just want a voice, they just want a seat at the table, and then you give them, the opportunity to say what they think, and they decline. Or they say, oh, no. Whereas men's rights activists, you found that a lot of them were worried that perhaps you would make a hit piece, but they gave you an interview anyway because it was one of the only chances they would get to speak to somebody.
Yes, that's absolutely true. And, it does take tough skin to be open to debating or, be on that kind of stage to debate with people with different views from your own, because especially if you're worried that you don't have all the information yourself to debate, then you wouldn't want to put yourself in that situation. You really need to know the opposing point of view in order to debate your own view well. So I do wonder if a lot of feminists turned down interviews with me because they didn't know enough about the men's rights perspective or platform to debate them. And, sure enough, when I interviewed feminists, I realized that they didn't know much of anything about what MRAs were saying. They hadn't gone out of their way to speak with them in person. So.
All of Cassie's interviews we guarded for one of two reasons. Either they were feminists who didn't like the idea of the film being made and didn't want to contribute to it, or they were men's rights activists who didn't believe that Cassie was going to make a fair picture. And so a lot of her interviews actually ended up recording themselves, taking notes, or kind of berating her at the beginning, saying, hey, you better not take me out of context because I've done A, B, and C, and they all like such and such. Took me out of context, or edited my picture to make me look like a crackhead.
Yeah, that was a common theme with interviewing men's rights activists was they didn't trust. So there was this kind of, prickly side where they wanted to talk to me in the hopes that, I would make a fair film like I did, but they also knew that they've been taken out of context so many times that they weren't really invested in it. Or, even Karen Strawn here, she's going to love that I say this. I tried to interview her so many times, first in Toronto and then in Detroit. And she kept on, I think she'll admit to this, she kept on kind of brushing me off and even did an interview with Vice instead of going to be interviewed by me. So the entire interview was so late in the night in a noisy bar because she kept pushing off my interview with her.
Well, to be completely fair to Karen, though, we definitely were coming off as uneducated feminists.
Yeah, people from San Francisco.
Who really just had no idea about the topics and kept trying to debate them with her. And I can imagine that would be a little bit irking.
Yeah, and Vice was, definitely had a bigger presence than we had at the men's rights conference. But yeah, so, and then of course Vice, released a short documentary about the men's rights conference, and it was just a hit piece. And, yeah.
Yeah. All we need to know about MRAs is that they're just vile misogynists, and they think beating your wife is okay and all that stuff. I'm continuing because Miss Silhouette seems to have left the group chat, left the thing. But yeah, it's. I just like looking at all the feminists' reaction to all this. It's amazing. It people wanting to silence you, people wanting you to not wanting your film to really be shown to people. It's just amazing. It just, well, obviously this is not for all feminists, but it kind of makes me doubt a little with some feminists who say we want to hear from everyone, we want to hear from all the men, feminists want to hear the voices of men and all that, because they need feminism as well. So it kind of makes me, since the reaction to your film and all that, it's kind of make me think really the reaction to this seems from the feminist perspective seems to be rather rather negative.
I've seen this happen so many times already, especially on Tumblr with comic artists. There was this comic artist who was a woman like you, and she was also a lesbian, and she made a lot of anti-SJW feminist comics, and they silenced her, doxed her, did so many things, despite the fact that their movement's supposed to empower people like her. But since she didn't share the same ideology or was the opposition, they felt no remorse in silencing her and endangering her livelihood. So you're very brave for making this movie, and I'm definitely going to watch it. And I appreciate you so much for doing this, and in a fair and balanced way.
Thank you.
Well, I myself am an artist, and I would like to. I myself like to do art, and so I've been watching your career with great interest, because I wanted to know if one could still have a career if one comes out as a men's rights activist and all that. So I'd like to know a little bit more about the backlash that you're going through, and do you still have concerns about the future in filmmaking?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where once you I think there are certain topics that you just shouldn't touch because they're so contentious that they'll, be a part of your bio or Wikipedia page for the rest of your life. And so you have to go into that, project knowing that you're going to have this scarlet letter of a sort. But I mean, I'm glad I did it. I do feel like the Red Pill is my most important, work I've ever done in my life. It's the most personal project I've ever done in my life. So I wouldn't take it back for anything. But, of course, I do wonder if I'm ever going to be able to, be hired again. I was directing, some pretty big ad campaigns for Comcast. And I also was kind of branded before the Red Pill as a film director that worked really well with women's issues and girls. And, and I did some LGBT type of projects. So I don't know if I would be hired again in that kind of, realm.
Well, the hope also is that maybe in a decade, none of this stuff is going to be as controversial as we consider it to be now.
Well, I genuinely think that Cassie will be very much a milestone in this movement, because we're not going to stop. None of us are going to stop. We're going to keep pushing this, and it looks like that things are starting to move as much as
horribly quiet.
Has it? We're still here. As much as feminists are having a real backlash. 2016 has been quite a significant year for backlash, and Black Lives Matter and things like that. But also you know, it's been significant with Theresa May, with Donald Trump. People are starting to say we're not putting up with the left's monopoly on these issues anymore. And like you, Cassie, and like Otter, you know, I've always been on the left all my
this
life.
is live meditation over the internet, no words spoken.
I don't think he can hear.
So
us.
is Richard not able to hear?
Not getting audio here.
I don't think he can hear any of us.
Oh no, for Richard.
Poor Richard.
Oh no.
Cassie, you do sign
Well, I
language.
can hear bits and pieces.
Oh right.
Save Richard.
But yes, but basically, I really think that Cassie has done us a massive service making this
Yeah.
thing, and people said the same about, you know, whatever any previous kind of movement for equality. People said, oh, that's too controversial, don't want to touch that, it's never going to happen, you know, just learn to live with things like that. So yeah, I mean, this is already, it's the music is up for an Oscar, am I right?
Yeah, well, we're qualified. I mean, I think there's 91 songs qualified for this fall. Yeah. But one thing I would like to say is I do feel like well, no, I shouldn't say. I don't like to say stuff that confuses stuff. Okay, well, I'll knock on everyone knock on wood. But I do feel like I've always been on the right side of history with all my projects, and a lot of my films have been ahead of the curve. So I started making my first film, Daddy I Do, about sex education, comprehensive sexual education in schools, right before that became, you know, a nationwide discussion, at least in the U.S. And then I started making my film, The Right to Love, about gay marriage, back when I was still having a lot of family and friends, even in California, saying, you know, I don't want to touch that, and having this kind of, you know, subtle homophobia about it. And then when my film, The Right to Love, about gay marriage was released, it's, you know, it was on time, right on time for
The repeal of profit.
yeah, and then it eventually, you know, went the federal and was passed nationally. But anyways, I always feel like I've been on the right side of history, and I think The Red Pill, maybe it's a little slower moving than my previous films as far as the timing. I think it may take a lot more time for people to start waking up to men's issues that need to be discussed. But I do feel like, you know, just education is the first step, because so many people have no idea what, they couldn't even rattle off 3 men's issues. And
Well,
you know,
that's the thing. Like like your film might inspire someone else to make their own film about the subjects, and so on and so forth. And then people will start to see that, you know, MRAs aren't just these, like, you know, these basement dwelling neckbeards. They're a bunch of misogynists and all that. Like, there are actual issues that, like, MRAs really want to tackle, and that are often feminists, like, sometimes, well, not all feminists, but feminists, like, demonize them for, really. So I think it's brilliant, because it just inspires more people to, you know, it inspires more people to have a bit more of a voice on the issue, like actually get out there and talk about men's issues, which really need to be talked about.
Well, and I think one of the other reasons why this is such a polarizing issue and polarizing movie in many ways as well is just because that it actually is a movie. Most of the issues that get talked about is over the internet, and the internet, you have the freedom to just sort of, you know, not open the link and not open the video and all that kind of stuff. There's too much else that you could do that you can distract yourself with. A movie is something that when you go to a theater just to try it out, you have to sit there and you have to watch the movie from start to finish or walk out. So I think the fact that this movie exists is great. If by some miracle you can get it on Netflix, I think that would make a world of difference.
well, we're working on it. We're distributors.
All right.
Well,
In videos.
Okay, if you're in the all right.
when you were saying you're on the right side of history, I think the most important thing that I tell myself whenever I have to ask, you know, am I doing the right thing? Basically, what I say is that I think the massive difference between the anti-feminists and the feminists, or the anti-SJWs and SJWs, is that we're not trying to stop them saying what they think. We're just trying to say what we think as well.
Exactly.
Like, Christina Hoff Sommers put it really simply when she said, when in doubt, err on the side of freedom. So basically, we are not
Just
stopping
err
them
on the
from
side,
having-
err on the side of listening. Really, that's it.
we want to make sure that everybody's voice is heard, whereas they want to make sure that only theirs is. And I think that is a huge difference. I think that's the difference between freedom and fascism, whether there's every voice or whether there's just one.
They mistake the opposition with silencing them when it's not true. Just because it's opposition doesn't mean we're silencing you. It's just we're challenging your ideas and we're expecting a response from you. Which
Well,
is
they keep on saying, that any backlash to feminism is simply men not able to cope with women sharing space with them. They say, oh yeah, men, think they're oppressed because women are simply stepping up and sharing space. And it's kind of, I think there's a lot of projection in that, because I think one of the problems with them is that when they have a monopoly on gender issues, they do see someone else with a different opinion as silencing, because they're not used to it. They're not used to someone disagreeing with them.
There's been so many times that, I guess more liberal-leaning organizations or feminist organizations will say that they're getting harassment from men's rights activists, and I really wish they would post the screenshots of this. Like this just happened on Twitter, where a women's rights organization called Women's Voices Now. It's a film festival that.
Yeah, they deleted a tweet, didn't they?
Yeah, so they shared the film, and I thought that was so great that they're sharing it, because it's it's my journey learning about the men's rights movement. It is kind of a woman's journey, even though it's about a topic that usually women's organizations don't explore. But I thought it was great they were sharing the film, and so I said, thank you for sharing it. I'll submit to your film festival. And then they removed their tweet, and so people were asking them, why'd you delete your tweet? Where they were wearing the red pill, and they said that they started getting harassment from men that because they were a women's rights organization. And I really have a hard time believing that, and I wish they would. They said they were also getting threats. Really? And if that's the case, you should be reporting it to Twitter, and you should be screenshotting it and sharing it and telling, showing what's happening. But I do wonder, there's so many times that things are called harassment when it really is just disagreeing or saying something that you don't want to hear. And
there's also the aspect of there are trolls out there who decide to pretend to be somebody else.
Yeah, and it could be, people posing as, I'm an MRA and I'm threatening you. But yeah. And also with the Mayfair Theatre, they were in Ottawa, so there was this controversy in Ottawa, Canada, where there was a theater that was booked to screen The Red Pill, and then a couple days prior to the screening, they pulled the film, saying that they were getting all these emails from feminist protesters saying that this film promoted misogyny or violence against women, and they didn't like the group that was hosting the screening, CAFE, the Canadian Association for Equality. And so the Mayfair Theatre pulled the screening, and then Mayfair Theatre claimed that they were getting all these, threats and harassment emails or calls after they pulled the screening. But again, I would like to see the proof of that, because if you are getting threats, serious violent threats, then the police should be involved, but they didn't file a report of any kind. And so I think these threats were just people saying, hey, you're engaging in censorship and that's not right, and you're a movie theater, just your job.
Oh, definitely, it just depends on their definition of harassment, because they have their own unique definition of harassment, just how they have their own definition of racism, of the sexism even. So it's very difficult, because you have to get into definitions with them of what qualifies as harassment and what doesn't, when something's obviously trolling or anything like that, or just a simple disagreement. That is not harassment. So that's when it becomes a very tricky issue, because they kind of define it in their own terms and base their feelings on it, rather
Yeah.
they feel attacked, but that doesn't mean that it was actually an attack.
And the sad thing, like a lot of these people probably haven't even seen the film.
Oh yeah.
Most likely. Most likely they'll say like, "Oh, this is full of misogyny, sexism, and all that, all rape culture, and all that." And then you probably go up to them and say, "Have you seen the film?" Go, "No," but it's probably I heard from another friend who wrote a blog who apparently said it was sexist. So I'll believe it. God damn it, because listen to believe.
I'm really
I guess.
sorry, guys. There's a strong wind here. It seems to be interfering with the internet a little bit. But yeah, Cassie, what did you think about that in Australia? The talk show where there was like 5 presenters and 4 of them were defending the right for your film to be seen, and one of them was doing exactly what Otter was talking about, is saying, "I haven't seen it, but it's full of rape. I just know it." And the others were like, "Well, no, it deserves to be seen. She has a right to make her film." Like, I thought feminism was about empowering women. When you saw that, how did that make you feel?
Yeah, I was so happy to see that the majority of the panel agreed that it was censorship to cancel a sold-out screening in Melbourne when it had already been booked for 2 months. And then there was the one woman on the panel who said it should be banned because she read this petition on change.org that's filled with misinformation and lies about the film from people who hadn't seen the film. And she said, "Well, if this petition says that it promotes violence against women, then we need to ban this." It's like,
well, you gotta listen and believe, I guess.
Well, I suppose the most important thing is, thank God, Cassie, that you're a woman, right? Because they would have so much more power against you if you were a man. The fact that you're a woman makes it much harder to believe that you're out to make this video about why women belong in the kitchen. So yeah, the fact, because I imagine, like, if you had been a boy, you probably would have still been just as interested in filmmaking, so you probably would have gone down this road anyway. But the fact that you're a female is massive for us, for all of us who need a film like The Red Pill to succeed.
And also because you started out as a feminist as well, and it's like your journey throughout. So it's not just you as an ordinary person going into it. It's you as a feminist going through it and going through a journey, really. So it's that you're not just a woman, but like a woman who is a feminist as well going through it is even more interesting.
Yeah, I used to be a feminist too, and I did go through a similar journey like that when I got out of my echo chamber and I started reading and talking to people with opposing views, and I'm like, this is not a scary world. There is actual facts here that need to be acknowledged, and there are issues here that need to be acknowledged. The super scary patriarchal society that they illustrated, it's not a boogeyman. These are people, and they're meant to be heard. We're meant to be discussing things in a rational manner, not just painting it as a huge boogeyman who just wants to oppress people and put them in the kitchen and make sandwiches and pop out babies. It's a cartoon in their head. And I can relate to that a lot, which is why I'm really excited to see this movie.
You know what I keep on thinking every time I remember that you did this. You started this because you were intending to make a documentary about rape culture. And then you discovered A Voice for Men and fell down the rabbit hole. And I keep on thinking, imagine she hadn't discovered A Voice for Men and had continued down the road and made a film about rape culture like The Hunting Ground. And how we all would be sitting here going, that bitch, Cassie Jaye, that bitch. Someone needs to destroy her.
Oh my God, typical feminist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, exactly. With a name like Cassie Jaye, how could she be anything but a femme?
Well, so it's where I give a lot of credit to people like Paul Elam, who shock and appall to get attention. They're like, the person on the playground pulling the pigtails, trying to get, a response. Mm-hmm. And it worked on me because I, found A Voice for Men. I was shocked and appalled by what they're writing in the headlines, and I did think these are the rape apologists that I've been hearing about. And I was thinking I was going to make this sensational movie about the, this growing movement of misogynists. And even probably 6 months into filming, I filmed for a total of a year. But even 6 months in, I don't think I would have quite understood the men's rights perspective, because I was so entrenched in, and Karen Strawn has called this belief perseverance, where when you're challenged with a different view from your own, you want to dig your heels in even more and
Yes.
convince yourself to believe in even more of what you originally believed. So, you know, I was even becoming somewhat more feminist while I was filming, just because I was fighting what I was learning from men's rights activists. So the process of making the red pill and having to stick through this 3.5 years of making the film is eventually I hit that breaking point where I was so strongly feminist views, and then I guess it's like you're clasping, you're holding tight, and then finally it's like you can't hold on any longer, and you just relax, and then you realize, okay, it's not all black and white. Men have issues. We can still talk about women's issues, and care about that, and not take anything away from respect for women, while also bringing men's issues into the discussion. And it's okay to have both, compassion for both. And
Well, I think about you show in your trailer that that rally that you were at, where they were talking about ending violence, and they say, "Let's end violence, especially against women and girls." Like that. That's their actual quote, and I think that sums them up really well. That's what's important. It's not just about ending violence. It's especially about ending violence against women and girls, because other violence is less. Other violence matters less.
It's like the Black Lives Matter movement. It's very similar.
Exactly. Let's end bigotry and racism, especially against black people.
Mhm.
Well, why not just end bigotry and racism? On Skype, there has been an advert that's been sort of, how in the right-hand side ads pop up. There's been an advert that's been there for a while about, such and such 100,000 girls are out are not in education in Africa. Let's end that. And it's like, why end the disenfranchisement of the girls? Why not end it for everyone? Why do we always have to, like, if someone said, let's end cancer, especially for Jews, or let's cure hepatitis for whites, or something like that. If you broke down other sort of problems that weren't societal but like biological problems like illness, and said, let's end that especially towards such a random group, people would be like, that doesn't make any sense. Why not just cure cancer? Why not just end hepatitis? Why do you only focus on this group?
Well, we also have to remember this has been around for a very, very long time. It's sort of ingrained in our history, and it's part of our biological thing. It's just that guys are not very good at standing up for themselves. They're very stoic. They're very much, we will sacrifice, our health and our wellness for the protection of our, loved ones and our family, and for women and that kind of stuff. That's why men tend to work themselves to death, who are the only gender that actually does that.
Karen Strawn would say that they stand up for causes, other causes. Like, they love to stand up for their work, or they love to stand up for their wife, or they love to stand up for their kids or their country or whatever. They just don't really do well standing up for men. Like, that's not a cause they innately want to be part of. They want to be, they want to fight for other reasons. They're great at fighting. They're just not good at fighting for men.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
That sounds about right.
Sounds right.
Mr. Silhouette,
Yes.
what are your plans for bringing the red pill to where you are?
Well, I'm going to discuss with Richard, providing, of course, he can hear me. I'm going to discuss with Richard the possibility of getting a showing in Glasgow or Edinburgh, which are the two biggest cities in Scotland. I will be attending the one in Birmingham, regardless of what happens. We've already arranged for that. It's happening on a special day for Otter.
Yeah, it's my birthday.
Yay!
So that's an extra special birthday present. And the two of us are going to be able to meet in person. So
There you go.
so that'll be fantastic.
Yeah.
But yes, Richard has already been looking into getting it into Scotland and hasn't had success thus far. So it's possible we won't, but we will do our best because I would love to be able to get it up here and force my family to go see this, you know, because they
Force them.
yes, force them with my patriarchal hand because they have wondered what I've been doing, and much like I'm sure people have asked you, Cassie, what on earth you've been doing? Are you a misogynist? Are you whatever? You a woman hater? Because my father actually said that to me very staunchly at one point. It was quite a kind of shaking moment for me when I was saying, "Did you know this? And did you know that?" And then he turned around to me and said, "Are you a misogynist?" Like straight, like very direct question. Have you become a misogynist? You know, and it was awful, and I never would have thought that I would be asked that by my parent for simply talking about men's issues and talking about ways that feminism was
Crazy.
corrupt. So, I mean, I would love to show that they haven't stopped me or anything. They have been quite supportive, but they have been confused. And I would like the red pill is a fantastic example of saying these are the people I talk to, these are the people I respect. This is what I'm doing.
I'd love for a red pill thing to show up in like Manchester or something, because then we can bring all the cognitive thought and charming man, and we can make a YouTuber thing of it. So that'd be awesome. It's closer to me as well.
Well, I was fortunate enough to see it in Edmonton and meet up with the Honey Badgers. So
Oh,
that
nice.
was it was a good experience. I was a little relieved and slightly disappointed that there weren't multicolored haired protesters on the outside of the campus, but I still enjoyed it.
Oh wow, Richard, yes. He's trying to set up in. Richard said in the chat, I'm trying to set up in Manchester. That would be awesome. I would see it.
When
Manchester.
you're going to see it anyway.
I'm going to see it anyway, but I'd see it again in Manchester.
When I know that the release of the DVD has been pushed back because
Well, I'll keep trying.
because the success of the showings, have just kept going. People are continuing to bring a showing to this place in Australia or that place in Canada or whatever. So you've pushed back the release of the DVD. No. I thought it was planned for January.
No. So the Kickstarter back. Are you talking about the Kickstarter backers or the worldwide release?
The worldwide release.
Yeah. So the worldwide release, we've never set a date for the DVDs, but we are planning to be available worldwide online to the public in a couple months. Our distributor's working on it. They haven't given us an exact date of when they're going to be releasing it. And then as far as the Kickstarter backers, we've always been on schedule for that delivery date, which is February for their digital downloads.
Do we is there like a special edition where you get a signed copy?
Probably work that in.
I thought that was
I'm
already.
gonna get free things out of you now.
No, I genuinely thought that was already a thing. That there was the standard copy because I thought I read that on Daddy I Do that there was like a standard copy and then there was a deluxe edition. No.
I mean, for Daddy I Do It Select, we have a combo package that you can get on those sites.
Oh, maybe that's.
Until we haven't announced anything about the
DVD. Sorry, I didn't realize I was pitching ideas. I thought that was already a thing. Get a signed copy.
The next day there'll be like an announcement on Twitter saying all this now, saying, "Hey, a new announcement! This is happening."
And also, Cassie thought of it. It was all from Cassie. This is how you make movies, isn't it, Cassie? Other people give you the ideas.
I'll take them.
So we probably need to wrap up because Cassie needs to get going. Are there any last questions? No. Really? Cassie Jaye, your one-time chance to talk to Cassie Jaye, and you're all silent?
Well,
What were your thoughts? Wasn't it? I don't know whether this. I can't remember whether I'm accurate on this, but weren't people trying to ban you from Australia as well?
Yes.
How
Yeah.
how would you describe that? It's crazy.
I mean, I've heard that they've only banned like 2 people in history from the country, and one of them
Yeah.
was the Twin Towers bombing in New York.
Yeah.
So to be lumped in with that kind of crowd is pretty
Wasn't the other one
insane.
jumped
No, they forced him into doing a PSA announcement about his dogs.
I mean, yeah, like talk about like overreaction, isn't it? Really, like I don't like this one. Ban the person from Australia. That's mad.
No,
I mean,
it shows their power, doesn't it?
well, in the film itself, you're going to see it does talk about these silencing tactics. Whenever men's rights organizations try to organize or speak or do anything publicly, they're shut down with protesters or pulling fire alarms or threats to the venue. And that was happening while I was filming men's rights activists. Like there were protesters riding into the DoubleTree Hotel where they were going to have a conference, and so the DoubleTree Hotel ended up kicking them out, and they had to find a new venue. And I thought it was just kind of anecdotal that these things were happening. So I don't think I really entirely believe that was a worldwide epidemic that groups were silencing people from talking about men's issues. And then the film came out, and luckily we do have that section in the film talking about the silencing tactics. But now the reaction to the film just proves what.
I suppose it's a bit like
I have a question.
Silence people, and we're going to stop you from saying that we don't.
Echoed then.
Sorry, I have a question. As a college student, I think colleges are one of the ones that are mostly affected by the false statistics, the fear-mongering that a lot of feminists seem to bring in the internet. Are you interested in showing your film in colleges, or doing a screening or a Q&A in colleges?
Yeah. We probably need to. We're trying to push for it in January.
Yeah. I can hear myself.
Does anyone know who the Echo is?
I'll see if I can mute myself.
Is it us?
Is it possibly Richard?
Richard.
What have we done?
We've created an echo chamber.
let me try to start muting myself.
Okay. Well, whoever
Miss Silla, is it you?
It's not.
It feels like it's everyone.
Time to wrap it up.
Yeah.
It's definitely not me, but we need to clear up because Cassie is going.
All right then.
So Cassie, thank you so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the worst thing ever. Ending ever.
Richard,
coming out.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for coming. It's been a real honor.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm so sorry, whoever it is. I will kill them. I'm no coming. But thank you so much, Kat. Best of luck with the and I'm so looking forward. As in, with all the screenings. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.